24, making offers without knowing your exit. Look, you've only got a handful of exits. Your offer has got to hinge on your exit. And that's going to be instantaneous when you've been in this thing a month. Look, you're either going to cash out of it, means you're going to sell it for cash, which means you're going to wholesale it, or you're going to rehab and retail it. Or you're going to put a lease option tenant buyer in it, or you're going to owner finance it, or you're going to move in. And you're allowed to move in, screw up one perfectly good deal. In fact, that's what I want you to do. I want you to find your deals on terms and eliminate banks. You can take this thing out of here if you would. All right. You better, guys, get ready to write. And John, can you put this up on the screen for them?
Okay.
This is, if you want to get the slides at this event, they're PowerPoints. I call them slides. It's ronlegrand.com/FM slides. I guess that means fatal mistakes, huh, Debbie? Okay. ronlegrand.com/FM slides. You got to go there now. You're not going to get them unless you go there and say, yeah, I want them. And then we'll just send you a link with all these slides on it. Now they won't have my voice. They'll just be the slides. Now, somebody asked, where do I find those 4 LLC chart and the lesson that's on them? And here's your answer. You go under resources on your Gold Club site. Resources will be across the bar at the top. And you then go to charts. Charts. Okay. That's a subhead. And then under charts, you'll see 4 LLCs. And that's FOUR LLCs. Right? Yeah. Okay. Now, one more time for you. You go to resources on your Gold Club site. At the top, press resources. And it'll bring you to another group. And you press charts. And when you do that, you press 4 LLCs. And you'll get that whole lesson. Okay. All right. So, why is it so important that I know my exit before I know my entrance? Because it tells me what I can offer. For example, if I'm going to cash out, should my offer be way below Mayo? Yes. Whether I'm wholesaling it or whether I'm rehabbing, my offer should be well below Mayo. Okay. If I intend to put a lease option tenant buyer in there, then I'm not going to make a cash offer for the property. Because when I buy on terms, I sell on terms. If I buy for cash, I sell for cash. So if I use private money to buy it, or if I wholesale it, either way, I'm going to sell it for cash. On a lease option, I've bought it for terms, and I know I'm going to put a lease option tenant buyer in there. And the same with owner financing. If I want to sell it with owner financing, what I do not suggest you do, but let's say I did want to. The question I'm going to be asking myself is, all right, how much do I think I can get down from the tenant buyer? House is in great shape, great neighborhood. I'm going to get somewhere between 5 to 10% down minimum, and sometimes more than the 10%, never less than the 5%. I'd rather have it vacant than put somebody in there with 5% down if you want to know the truth. And any landlord will tell you the same, because I can promise you that's just creating a future problem. If they don't have the money to put 5% down, we're not going to get along, and I don't have enough money in my pocket that used to belong to them to sleep well at night, because that deposit, folks, is your only insurance that you're not going to have a tenant that acts up on you, because that deposit is a risk. Take the skin in the game, and I want a bunch of it, and I'm going to wait till I get it. I'd rather have the house vacant, which means if I've got that attitude, I better ask myself, well, now what am I going to do if I don't get this thing leased before my first payment comes up? You better have an answer. Okay. Because that right there is a mistake a lot of people make. They're so worried about that payment coming up, they make stupid decisions to fix that problem. Put somebody in a $300,000 house with $5,000 down just so you can get a payment made. All you're doing is creating a bigger problem you're going to have to solve later. You better figure out a way to make the payment. And the next one and the next one, if you have to. You won't have to, because if you got a decent house, there will no way it's going to be on the market that long on a lease purchase. And if it is, you better find out why, because it's something you can probably fix. So when I'm buying with the intent to sell on terms, I want to make sure that my down payment that I think I can get from my buyer is much bigger than any down payment I have to give my seller. Now, of course, when I'm buying with nothing down, that's an easy calculation. So I know I'm going to win. I keep all the money. But if I'm buying a $300,000 house and seller wants me to put 25 down and I agree, I just killed my front end. So, I better have other things in this deal to make me want to buy it because my front end is a wash. On the other hand, I might be making the decision, and I can only get about 25 on the back end, but I'm going to get $1,000 a month positive cash flow out of this house. Okay, so maybe I'm willing to give up the front end and give them the 25 to get at the $1,000 a month. And who wouldn't, as long as I get my 25 back? So I have to examine my exit strategy and make sure that I'm not killing my exit by paying too much on my entrance. I hope that makes sense. Now, if I'm going to move in, then the exit is I'm going to move in. And if I have to put a little money in to move in, so be it. I mean, I go to the bank and borrow the money and guarantee the note I'm going to have to put up a big down payment. So if I have to put up a reasonable down payment to get in this lovely home that I want to make my home, so be it, as long as the payment's not going to strangle me along the way. So I'm always thinking exit first before as I'm creating the offer. And that exit will drive what I can and cannot do on the offer side. And what's important to you might not be important to me. In other words, I'll be happy to give up big old front end check if I can get me a really nice golden goose in a nice area with a monthly cash flow that's strong. I'll give up the front end because I don't need the front end. All right. Maybe you need the front end, and maybe that's what's most important to you. All right. But you're going to have to make that decision on deal by deal as they come to you. But always examine the exit. Wholesale and rehabs equals cash out. Simple. Terms equals terms out. Buy on terms, I sell on terms. If I buy on terms, I'm putting the least opportunity buyer in there. Period. That makes it easier. Do I have to? No. Can I buy it on terms and sell it for cash? Yeah. But on the other hand, I'm killing the golden goose, and I'm probably not going to be making much money if I do that, because there's going to be a whole lot less equity in it if I buy it on terms than if I pay cash for it. I'm not paying cash. I'll go back to my formula. If I pay cash, it's got to be 70% of R minus repairs equals Mayo, and I don't pay Mayo. Terms deals, I want to get money now, front end deposit. I want to get money monthly. That's the monthly spread. And I want to get money later when it's finally sold or released to another tenant buyer where I get my next non-refundable option deposit. So in other words, I want to create the golden geese. That simply means I can't put more down than I think I can get from a tenant buyer, period. And I can't pay more per month than I think I can get in rent. They call that negative cash flow. You don't want to get too many of them, and you can't make them up in volume. Okay. So I don't want you buying a house that has a negative cash flow. On the other hand, there are always exceptions. So be very careful. You don't look at a deal and just remember what I said. Don't buy a house with negative cash flow. For example, let's say I'm buying a house. It's worth $500,000, and there's a loan on it for $400,000. But I don't think I can rent it for more than $3,500, and my payment's $3,800. Well, if somebody's going to sell this house to me for, the low fours, and I'm going to get $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 worth of equity in this beautiful home in this beautiful area, and the only thing stopping me from buying it is that $300 a month positive negative cash flow, that ain't going to stop me from buying it. Why on earth would I give up, $80,000 worth of free equity to keep from paying $3,600 a year in negative cash flow? That's a ridiculous move. And that's crappy thinking. Okay. And that's the kind of deals people walk away from because of one little thing that's easy to solve. I would be thrilled to pay $300 a month negative cash flow on that house. But I can tell you right now, my tenant buyer might have a 1-year term. I mean, if I gave them a 2-year term, then I'm probably going to raise the rent $300 after the first year, or maybe I just don't do anything. Maybe there's so much equity in this thing, I'll just eat the $300 positive cash flow or negative. And where do you think I'm going to get that from? I'm going to get that from their $50,000 non-refundable option deposits. So that's where I'm going to get it from. Now they've got 2 years to exercise their option. Well, great. So I got what, 36 times 2, $7,200 that I'm going to put away to pay for that negative cash flow. And of course, if they don't pay, if they don't buy the house in 2 years, guess what's going to happen? I promise you, the rent's going to go up at least $300 a month for them to stay in it. Think the deal through. What's broke now? What can I do to fix it? Okay, negative cash flow. Great, got so much equity, I'll just absorb it, and I'm going to get a giant down. Would I really not get a giant down payment just to do away with $300 a month negative cash flow? Common sense tells me no. Buy the house. Can't pay top retail price and have much back end payday when I'm cashed out. So, okay, I buy it on terms. I'm buying it for $400,000, but it's only worth $400,000. All right. I know when I put it on the market, I'm going to put it on the market for about 4.25. But even if I do, I can only get 25 down because that's all the equity that I got in it. And I just artificially inseminated that because I bought it with no equity. So, my profit on this thing is going to be extremely skinny if I have to pay top retail price. I don't pay top real price even with terms. I expect some kind of a discount. And I'll tell them, gosh, if you list it with a realtor, you pay 6%, there goes $24,000. Surely you can sell it to me for less than the top 400,000, which is the very top of the market, and we'll work them down. So I may not be able to get a big discount, but whatever discount I get is another dollar going right into my pocket, right into the net profit. But I never want to cash out a terms deal. And I don't want to cash out a terms deal. Remember why? I know this is contradictory to what everybody's teaching you out there. Flip. Get cash, get a check, get a check, get a check, get a check. And I understand that because I did that for 20 years. And I still do it sometimes. I showed you 2 wholesale deals I did. But I'm telling you right now, I get my hands on a terms deal, and I don't want anybody buying it because I want the goose to live forever. And I'm working on several of them right now. But here's what you sacrifice if you sell the house. You only get one check, and then you're going to pay short-term capital gains getting that one check. That means if you're in a 25% tax bracket, 25% of that check has got to go right to the IRS. And you know what else it means? If you don't pay the IRS, it's going to be the 20% plus penalties and interest next year. So, you're going to pay the taxes, whether you decide to pay them right now or not, on those short-term deals. Those 2 that I just told you that I showed, that $77,000. Okay, well, I got half. My acquisition's got half. And we're both going to have to pay the taxes on those. Fortunately for me, I still got some leftover capital losses that'll wash mine out. I don't think he does. So, I told him, don't forget Uncle Sam. He said, I'm not. And that's just the beginning. I wouldn't be surprised if that gentleman doesn't make at least $250,000 this year, playing around, just being acquisitionists with me because of what I'm paying him. I'm paying him pretty well. But pay peanuts, you get monkeys. I am very willing to give up half of what I wouldn't have if he wasn't out there doing the work. Appreciation. I was going to show you here I didn't show you the house that I went to on Fitchwood that Tish lives in right now. I took over a loan of $351. Seller didn't get any money. And today that house is worth well over $600,000. That's called appreciation. Okay. And here's a big one. When I took over the loan, I owed $351. Today I owe about $260. That's called debt pay down. That's another big one. All right. So look at what happened just with that one house. Now, what happened if you had about 50 of those out there that you got for free, that you got paid to buy, and that you've been paid on every single month and are going way up in value, and you're writing huge, getting depreciation galore, lowering your taxes, and all the forfeited deposits for everybody that moves out, and you get to do it again. and the debt pay down and the long-term capital gains. Once you own the property for a year, it's long-term capital gains. And the maximum of those right now is 20%. They're trying to raise them, but the maximum right now is 20%. And most of you watching will probably be paying 15%. It's basically going to be based on your income. So in other words, leave the geese alone. Why would I want to kill my golden goose that keeps laying golden eggs that turn into more golden eggs for years and years and years to come? I'll usually make as much money on a non-refundable option deposit on a nice house as I would make wholesaling a junker or even rehabbing a property. Because by the time I get the property rehab, that so-called profit that you're looking at is going to start dwindling down because of all the closing costs they don't teach you on television. Right. So I'm getting, it ain't like if I keep it, I'm not getting paid. I'm getting a great big non-refundable option deposit that I hardly do anything for. So, I don't want to give up. I don't want to give up all those other goodies. I'll probably wind up getting another one of them big deposits later. If I wholesale or rehab, I'm not getting anything later but a tax bill. And the goose lives on. Every time you cash out, you kill the poor old goose. The longer you own a house, the more money you will make.